Well, the people have spoken. More miraculous it is. Hello everyone, my name's Aloubell, and today I'm keeping the miraculous train going by discussing the train wreck that is the Adrien and Marinette ship. And just to be clear, I called the relationship a train wreck just to keep the pun alive. There are much worse ships than Adrienette, but having said that, this one does have problems. But before we get into that, if you're interested in opinionated videos, rewrites, or analyses of anime, cartoons, or stories, or if you like the occasional storytime video, then please subscribe and ring the notification bell. The support really helps as I'm trying to reach my dream of having a creative career. So if you like this video, please also give it a thumbs up. And if you fancy yourself some cute and colorful artworks, please consider checking out and following my Instagram page at Aloubell. You'll see some of my recent works here. And now on to today's topic. It's no secret to anyone that Marinette has a massive crush on Adrien, and Adrien has a massive crush on Marinette's alter ego Ladybug. The whole love square is the definition of frustrating and should have been dealt with a long time ago. But this video is not specifically about that. Anyone who has been around long enough and has watched or read enough romance stories can see that Adrienette is endgame. There is no question about that. The characters in the show know that too, as they keep blatantly and annoyingly saying, "Those two were made for each other." Ugh, that's not even a natural thing for so many people to say. One person, sure, but it's like being bashed in the head multiple times by insecure writers who don't think that their audience can pick up what's happening between their characters. No disrespect, but I said it before in my first Miraculous video, and I'll say it again. We already know they're going to end up together. You don't need to keep telling us. Of course, this could be a giant misdirect. Imagine that the writers are laying it on so thick because the exact opposite will happen and they don't end up together. That would be something, huh? If they did that, and if they wrote it convincingly, because they can't just pull something like that out of nowhere, it does need to be built up. But if they pulled it off, then I would definitely applaud them. Regardless, as it currently stands, Marinette and Adrien will end up together. Currently, Marinette is super obvious about her crush because she's not very good at hiding it, but Adrien is painfully oblivious and doesn't notice. Marinette loves Adrien for his kindness and sincerity. His being handsome is a factor too, but not as important. Adrien sees Marinette as a good, if not best friend, and he thinks she is super kind, hardworking, determined, and altruistic. He definitely admires her and values her friendship. And according to Cat Blanc, he does harbor some feelings for her, but is unconsciously ignoring them because his primary love is Ladybug. And as we've seen in Cat Blanc, when they do finally get together, they are a super lovey-dovey couple who care about each other. So what's the problem? Okay, so I know I said earlier that I wasn't going to focus on the love square lasting so long, but it is actually kind of important. Season 4 is currently more or less halfway done, and the writers remain inconsistent in Marinette and Adrien's budding relationship. A few months ago, I watched a video by the YouTuber Sneezy Reviews, who discussed the Zuko and Katara ship from Avatar: The Last Airbender. The video is called "Get In Losers, We're Standing Zutara." And I already hardcore shipped Zutara before watching her video, but now I feel a lot more justified about it. Anyway, in her video, she discussed how, if you have a slow burn romance of some sort, you need to build up to the payoff of the characters getting together. That build-up consists of moments between the two characters that change their relationship and interactions with each other bit by bit. In this way, every time a new relationship building event happens, you should be able to notice a difference in the atmosphere around the two characters and how they behave, and it should have a pretty noticeable difference between how they acted around each other before that event happened. Zutara did this while Katang really didn't, to a point. Zutara did do it way better. But anyway, I suggest you watch her video. It's a little over 2 hours long, but it's super entertaining and informative, especially if you're interested in writing romantic stories, regardless of whether or not you ship Zutara. And if you want to watch them in shorter segments, I believe she did make separate videos for the separate sections of that 2 hour long discussion. So go give Sneezy Reviews some love. But the reason I brought up that video is because that concept of building up to the endgame relationship is not done well with Adrienette. The two are given these cutesy moments where they bond and get to know each other better, but come the next episode, said event is either not referenced, or there is no discernible difference between how they interacted with each other before and after the event. Marinette should have gotten used to Adrien by now. The stutter and dramatic nervous behavior should be nearly gone. The more time she spends with him and sees that he's just a normal dude, the more comfortable she should be. The only time she doesn't get like that is when she's distracted or in serious mode. Now, I'm not saying she can't feel nervous around him and be self-conscious. Most people are when they're around their crush, but Marinette's behavior is mostly unchanging. It's kind of the same for Adrien too, at least with his relationship towards Marinette. With the exception of those specific random moments, he treats her largely the same episode to episode. You want to know what the weird thing is? The writers do have some understanding of the whole specific events changing character interactions moving forward thing. Look at Ladybug and Cat Noir. Their relationship from season 1 looks different from their relationship in season 4. Even the relationship between Marinette and Luca and between Adrien and Kagami look different. So, the writers do know how to do that, but they refuse to do so with Adrienette. The likely reason is to string along this conflict as long as possible to keep people invested. The relationship journey between these two is one of the biggest pulls of the show and is what keeps many people watching. It's lasting too long, but I do understand why they're doing it. Having said that, I started to ask myself why Marinette and Adrien's relationship or future relationship felt so off to me. And in sparing you the details of my string of thoughts that led to this conclusion, the reason is this. Marinette sees Adrien as perfect, and that's a problem. Throughout my analysis of this idea, I'm going to reference a light novel / manga / anime series called Toradora in order to compare the main relationship in that story to Adrienette. But first, some background information. Toradora is a slice-of-life romance with some drama and comedy aspects created by Yuyuko Takemiya and was a light novel that ran from 2006 to 2009 and was adapted into a manga that began in 2007. It was also adapted into a 25-episode anime that ran from 2008 to 2009. Toradora has two main characters, Ryuji Takasu and Taiga Aisaka, and the plot is about how the two of them have crushes on the other's best friend. To make that sound less confusing, Taiga has a crush on Ryuji's best friend, and Ryuji has a crush on Taiga's best friend. The two find out about the other's crush, and through shenanigans, they agree to help each other win the hearts of their crush. It's a super cute and well-written anime, in my opinion, and if you like tsunderes and romances, this story is for you. Spoilers incoming if you don't want to know big plot points. Also, bear with me, this does relate to Adrienette. So, like I mentioned earlier, if you've seen enough romance stories or anime, you likely have a pretty good radar for who the endgame couples will be. Maybe you're tipped off by the images in the opening song, or you can just tell by character interactions. But in the case of Toradora, it's exceptionally obvious that Taiga and Ryuji are going to end up together. It's just a process of getting them to switch their focus from the other's best friend towards each other. At the beginning of the story, Ryuji and Taiga share something in common with Marinette. They both see their crushes as perfect people. They get stuttery and nervous and put their crushes on a high pedestal. However, here's where Toradora gets smart. They acknowledge this. The story goes out of its way to make the point that it would be a bad idea for Ryuji and Taiga to get with their crushes because of how they view their crushes. When you put someone on a pedestal and see no wrong in them, then the relationship is off balance. You might even see yourself as unworthy and may even be willing to overlook flaws and might even begin to think that you're the one making the mistakes. In some sense, you stop seeing your crush as a human, not to mention that you'd be very uncomfortable around your crush, and that shouldn't be the case. Your significant other should be the one you're most comfortable around and who you know will love you despite your flaws. You're supposed to build each other up and share in experiences and grow together. You're supposed to be equals. In Toradora, those relationship aspects grow between Ryuji and Taiga as the two of them are exposed to each other's flaws and call each other out on those flaws. They argue and they make up. They help each other through hard times. They relate to one another in both good and bad ways. They can talk about anything and they feel comfortable in each other's presence. Another cool thing that Toradora does is that they do expand on the relationships between Taiga and Ryuji and their crushes. In being able to spend more time with their crushes, the two of them become less nervous and stuttery and actually become friends with them. You can see a difference in their relationships and what they look like with each new bonding event. The problem with Adrienette is that Marinette doesn't see flaws in Adrien. She puts him on a pedestal. The two of them have never had a fight. Adrien was mildly disappointed in Marinette once when Mari wanted Chloe to move to New York, but that's about it. The two of them get much more development in their superhero forms. Cat Noir sees Ladybug as awesome, but they've had spats before. Granted, Cat Noir usually puts the blame on himself, as one does when putting a crush on a pedestal, but it's not as extreme. And even recently, he's starting to lose trust in her. But as far as Adrienette goes, Mari sees no flaw. She has never gotten mad at Adrien. She's never disagreed with Adrien. I'm convinced that if Adrien were to say that 4 + 4 was 9, Marinette would do some heavy mental gymnastics in order to justify that answer. The fact that she's willing to stalk him, call dibs on him, and sabotage other girls' chances with him, she doesn't really do this anymore, but the point still stands that she did do this at some point. And she currently gets access to his personal schedule without consent, sort of shows that she's put him on such a high pedestal that she barely sees him as human, but like above humans. Sure, once the reveal happens and she finds out that he's Cat Noir, then she'll realize that he does have flaws and that she does disagree with him on things. But the fact remains that if they weren't superheroes, she wouldn't allow herself to see that side of him that makes mistakes. And sure, Cat Blanc showed us that they'd be a lovely couple who are just so in love all the time, but even then, we see no issues between them. Yes, they're only a couple on screen for like 10 minutes, and in those 10 minutes they're still in the honeymoon phase, so them seeing flaws in each other is unlikely during that time, but still, they are just so blah. Sweet, but blah. And also concerning because of those other points. The point I'm trying to make is that Adrienette needs to develop and it needs to progress the relationship. I know that MLB is having a difficult time because it's both trying to have a linear story while also being the type of show where you can just jump in at any point and still get the gist of what's going on without seeing prior episodes. But it is doable to some degree. Sophia the First, a show from Disney Junior for preschoolers, does this beautifully. And let me know if you ever want a Sophia the First video. I would be willing, because I love that show. Anyway, in a show with a linear plot, you have no choice but to have elements in the show that only make sense if you've seen prior episodes. It's inevitable. So you might as well use the time to not only write in development, but make the development stick. Make every character interaction count. If something super romantic happens between your characters, acknowledge it and have it affect future events and actions. Have Marinette progressively get used to Adrien and let her see his flaws. Make her disagree with him on something. She needs to see that he is human too. She needs to get comfortable to a point where she feels okay being herself and letting him see her flaws too. And Adrien doesn't get a pass here either. I know he's dense and oblivious due to his upbringing, but even he has to eventually notice that he treats Marinette differently than literally every other girl on the show. He should have noticed that long ago. The gears should have started turning in his head a while back. I know the writers are working hard and they want to please a bunch of fans. I admire their work ethic and I honestly wish them all the best. I'm sure they're all lovely people. And the fact remains that no matter how much I or others rant about this, what's done is done. They can't undo 4 seasons worth of content. Adrien and Marinette's relationship buildup will just always be subpar. But it is my hope that the writers learn from this experience, and it is also my hope that future writers who stumble across this video will have learned something about writing relationships. I'm not saying I'm the best writer or storyteller, but I feel like my points are valid. Feel free to disagree at any time. In any case, that's all I have to say about Adrienette. So join me next time as I reach the finale of my Miraculous Ladybug analysis, rewrite, and rant series. I'll be reworking Ladybug and Cat Noir's origin, as well as reworking the power system in this show. I might eventually also have an epilogue live stream. I'm still mulling it over in my mind, but we'll see. But I do want to start talking about other shows and stuff, because once again, this is not a Miraculous Ladybug channel. It's a temporary Miraculous Ladybug channel, but I would like to talk about other things. So look forward to that in the near future. Until then, tell me, What are your thoughts on Adrien and Marinette's relationship? Do you ship them? Do you not ship them? Do you ship them but have problems with it? Do you agree or disagree with my analysis? Comment below and let's get this conversation started. But as for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.